For your passion to succeed, you also need patience.
Definitely. Patience is also one of the key. Traveling. My passion was traveling to eventually believe in yourself. They're here for their holiday and they want to enjoy their holidays, want to have fun.
Create a life where you work and where you explore and follow your passion. Hello everybody, it's Sascha from Das Potenzial, and today I'm here at Petra, diving actually for the last 2 weeks with Ocean Dimensions. You know, over the last couple of weeks when I was here, I was thinking about the idea of how it works to have a dive center, how we can build a connection to leadership and what are the similarities. And so I thought to make a little podcast for all of you and to include Petra from Ocean Dimensions.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you, Petra. Do you want to introduce yourself to the group?
All right, my name is Petra. I'm from Germany, together with my partner Mark, who is from New Zealand. We started a dive center here in the Maldives. Oh, now I need to think back, more than 10 years ago. And we started with one dive center, and we're still in the Maldives, and now we have 3 dive centers. So probably sharing our story in the Maldives with you.
That's so inspirational. Many of us have dreams of sailing around the world, like myself, maybe diving, creating a dive center somewhere. How do you even get to this idea in the first place, and what made you to actually then do it?
I started traveling. My passion was traveling. In the first countries I dived was in Kenya. Before that, I actually didn't even dream about diving. I started in Kenya diving in 1991. And believe it or not, my partner Mark, my partner in the business, my partner in life, he was at the time, he was my dive instructor.
Wow.
So I learned diving in a pool, not in the ocean straight away. We started in a pool, and then of course later also in the ocean. And there in Kenya, my love for diving started.
And then from Kenya, there were many years probably between when you started to dive to when you actually opened your dive center.
So I first started diving in Kenya, then it took a little while to become a professional. So first you need to do several dives, or 100 dives, at least to become a diving professional. And also once you are a diving professional, you need to learn your trade. It's not that you see one dive center in one country or one destination and you say, yes, now I know it all and I start a dive center. You need to look at different options, different countries, different rules, different varieties to eventually believe in yourself, being able to start your own dive center. So it took me a year to become a dive master, and probably another 6 months to become an instructor. After that, we together with Mark, we worked for different companies in Egypt, in Cuba, in Ecuador, in different countries, and finally ended up in the Maldives.
Experience is what you're saying, it makes the big difference.
Yes, experience makes the difference.
And what made you to eventually open up the diving centers in the Maldives? And not, for example, in Thailand or Egypt, or we talked about previously about Fiji.
I've worked for different dive centers, and the most professional dive center we've worked for, was here in the Maldives. I guess the Maldives has the number of tourists and the reputation as a diving destination, and it is run very professional here in the Maldives. I think, I don't want to talk bad about other countries, but I think in some countries the budget is lower and it's run less professional. So I was impressed how professional it was run here in the Maldives, and that's how we stayed in the Maldives. Diving was of course also a point. Diving, from all the places I've dived, I love diving in the Maldives the most.
And she even comes with us diving on several occasions when I go out here.
Yeah.
Like I think at least in the last 2 weeks he came along 5 days or something,
Yeah.
so which I find inspiring because he can actually create a life where you work and where you explore and follow your passion.
I would not be in the Maldives if I wouldn't love and enjoy the diving. I try to go as much as possible, to go out. When I initially started my own dive center, or maybe even you think starting a dive center is I employ a few people and I send them out diving. That's not what it is all about. There's so much more behind it. It's not just jumping on a boat, doing a little briefing and go out to dive. So there's a little bit more in the background that has to run as well.
You just mentioned it actually about the background of the diving operations. And I was thinking about diving being such a fun sport, but it's also a little bit dangerous, right? Like going to the ocean, taking the responsibility for another life down into the water, making sure that everything is working accordingly, that the people behave, that the people have the certifications, that they know what to do, that the dive instructors are actually reliable and trustworthy to take. I mean, eventually you leave them alone with your clients in the water. So how do you make sure that all of this is working accurately and to your satisfaction?
Well, we are a PADI 5-star dive center, so there are different organizations that teach diving, and PADI gives us a framework and gives us safety standards, safety rules, and for how to teach and how to guide our guests underwater. So we follow this PADI standards, and of course once we employ new people, they don't just jump in the water and do whatever they think is right. We have a philosophy, and we teach new staff our philosophy. And at least for 2 months, new instructors have to follow an experienced instructor who has worked with us for a longer period. And also we ask our new instructors to sign at least 1-year contracts, because we spend a lot of time in training. So I feel if I train somebody for 2 months and they leave after 4 months, then it doesn't benefit me nor the instructor. So we ask our staff to stay for 1 year, and a lot of staff also stay longer than a year, because what's not to like about diving in the Maldives.
So Petra, you were just talking about how you ideally your people you hire, they have like a 1-year contract with you, so
Yeah.
they can actually really go deep into the learning, teach them how your philosophy is of diving, make sure that they're actually committed to you and the Maldives for a little bit, for your investment to pay off eventually. When you talk about philosophy, can you share more about your philosophy about diving?
Number one point, of course, is the safety of the divers. So I want to find out if the instructors are teaching according to their standards and adhering to all the safety rules. But also the divers are here, of course they're here for the safety, but also to enjoy. They're here for their holiday, and they want to enjoy their holidays, want to have fun and see lots of stuff underwater. Some people like you like the big stuff, and other people like the small stuff. So we need to find out what the guests really want to see, and then make their holiday dream come true in a safe manner. So they need to have fun and be safe.
And I think that's a very important point too, because people come obviously, like myself, here with expectations. I came here with this expectation after I did my supposedly not so good research, that I would see manta rays, which we have seen actually in the last couple of days a lot, but also whale sharks. And whale sharks we haven't seen yet, which seems to be. So how do you manage this expectation setting and to satisfy your clients who come here, like you said, for vacation, but then maybe with the expectation of seeing something specifically, which obviously is depending on weather, on current, on visibility, and on luck too, because the fishes do what they want to do, right?
Yeah. So some do more research before they come. They contact us beforehand. They write us an email. They find us on the internet. We do have an app, the Ocean Dimensions app, where we have explained and we have pictures, schedules, prices of all our excursions, and they're explained. We have a website that I refer to. We have a blog that I refer to. So there is a lot of information out there what you can see. And if you do contact us in advance, I can also explain you what you could expect. But then again, of course, you're right, on all the social media is only the best pictures of the most mantas and whale sharks. And of course we see whale sharks, but not every day. But I do put pictures of a whale shark on social media. But yeah, you also need to go through this information as a customer and say, do they see whale sharks every day? Or is it a rare or luck? Is there some sort of luck involved also to see a whale shark? Or is there a right season to see the whale shark?
And I think that's a very important information too, right? Like to manage your own expectation for where you want to go, for what you want to see, and be also clear to yourself. And we talk in coaching very often about the idea to understand the why behind what you want to do, what your intention is, what your goal is, and then to be also honest to yourself that maybe if something, like in my case, I didn't see whale shark yet.
Maybe you will see it tomorrow.
Maybe. But I also learned meanwhile that there are better places in the world to see more whale sharks. Be open to the learning you make on your journey, through the adventures.
Yes.
Learn from the professionals who have been here for many years, who have the expertise. There's always somebody who has a lot of experience, so like asking the right questions, being curious.
Yeah. So here is a very good place to see the mantas. You see, you're more likely to see mantas here in the famous Honeyfarrow Bay. Honeyfarrow Bay, the season here is from May to November. The best times to see mantas is during the new moon and the full moon periods. Not always exactly on full moon or new moon, also the days before and after, you can get very lucky. And whale sharks, again, it's very difficult. I reckon from year to year it differs, but last year we had the most whale sharks in September.
And another question I had in mind is, when you hire people, you said it takes a moment to find the right people.
Yeah.
And you talked about the philosophy already, the safety, the petty requirements. So how do you make sure you find the right people that eventually fit into your team? If you can only interview them via video conference first, right? And then they fly here and has to fit.
I interview the candidates, and again, with the different interviews, I try and find out who would suit us best. I try and do an hour and more and longer, the interview. And I also have a document that describes life on the island, which I send to the candidates, where I also describe to them how life here will turn out. People also need to be honest with themselves. Are they ready for this? Are they able to live on a small island in the Maldives? Not everybody is suited to live on a small island. I hope I make the right choice, or the new staff member makes the right choice. But that we only find out in the end once that person is really here. We try and make that person as comfortable as possible because we want people to stay. There's also an expense for work permit, tickets. It's an expense on both sides, so on the side of the new employee and on our side. So we want to make it work. And we embrace the new person and make a good work environment. I think in over 10 years there were very few people, maybe 3 people that I can remember, that did not fit the team. Also instructors want to stay and want to make it work. So I think people who are traveling are flexible and fit into teams, and and maybe I'm able to choose the right people as well.
Sounds like it, yes. And he's made a very important point talking about expectation settings, which actually in business we do all the time. And sometimes we fail on that, right? We don't do the perfect job, but similarly, as you just mentioned, I think it's, especially in an environment like this, so important because it is a small island. And if you have to stay here for a year and have to think about, hey, there's no restaurant, no additional restaurant, but a hotel restaurant. Yeah. There's no store, you can just go to. The only people you will meet are the people from the hotel or the guests. You don't have a club or a bar, aside from, again, the hotel bar. So your life will be different here. Like describing that to the people so they get an idea of what they actually get into. It's a very important point.
Yeah.
And maybe a learning, for us in business to also take on and do maybe a little better job sometimes of describing where we want to go, why we're doing certain things, so that people can easier follow leadership to complete the tasks in the way what we're looking for. And everybody, even when we're going away from this island, they have a life. So what is their life about? What are they looking for to achieve in their life? And why are they even signing up to become part of our team, and in this case your team? Some interesting part here is you see all this equipment behind us everywhere, from life vests to wetsuits, snorkel gear, and you have to also think about that getting this stuff is not very easy because, again, we are on a little island here. You cannot just run to Amazon and say, hey, deliver it tomorrow. You have to probably plan weeks ahead.
Yeah.
So how do you handle all of that?
We source companies. For example, here we work with Cressy. So we are in touch with Cressy. We tell them that we have 3 dive centers. We meet them on shows. We go to a dive show in Germany. We go to a dive show in England. We meet the owner of Cressy. And we talk, or the compressors, the dive compressors, Bauer compressors. So we meet the company's owners.
Like making actually sure that you know who to talk to if you need something, that you build your network, and even more importantly, like in any business, like we rely on the network we're building. And without this network, we cannot do a lot of things.
We also have somebody in Male, so these, whatever we order first arrives at the airport in Male. It goes into customs. So there needs to be somebody that clears the items out of customs. There's duty to be paid. So also you can't just lift a box of BCDs. There needs to be a truck, or recently we've ordered jet skis. So you can't just lift a jet ski. So there needs to be a logistics behind it to lift the jet ski from one container to another container, onto a boat, onto the end of the jetty here till it arrives on the island. So they're not small items. Yeah, it takes cooperation, logistics, time and money to bring equipment to the Maldives.
And as a reminder, again, we're on a small island. There is no airport right here on this island. So everything has to be delivered by boat. How does mail actually get here in the first place? Like normal mail?
It arrives in the office in Male. And there's, we call it here co-mail. I don't know if that's an international thing, co-mail, company mail.
Okay.
And it goes into a briefcase, and they hand it at the airport, they hand it over to the airplane, and here somebody on this end picks that briefcase up. It's in a black briefcase. On the briefcase is written co-mail. And like with this co-mail briefcase, mail gets to the different islands. The flight carriers carry it onto their plane, and somebody drops it off in Male and somebody picks it up on this end.
And when we talk about the flight carriers, like again, they're not flying to this island directly. Maybe the water airplanes do, but there's another island which actually has the airport. So it has to, again, then from this airport probably be shipped here with a boat. So it has to go through different steps. Again, not just like at home in California where we order something today and tomorrow it might be there.
And it comes to your doorstep. So we also need to keep stock of spare parts, and we need to think months ahead to be prepared. If something breaks, it can't be easily or quickly fixed. Somebody needs to come from Male, an engineer, to fix a jet ski, to fix a compressor. Somebody needs to get on a flight, needs to stay here overnight, has to have the right tools, the right spare parts. So again, it's a lots of logistics involved. More logistics, I guess, than in other countries.
So it's a long-term thinking which you have to do to actually run this business. Like when we think about dive centers, we're following our passion, doing what we enjoy doing, but then there's all the background mechanisms which you just talked about, the operations, the logistics, making sure that the guests are happy, that they stay happy throughout the diving and that they
That
stay
the
safe.
compressor keeps running and that we don't, that we can keep on filling the tanks. Or tomorrow I have to say, oh sorry, our compressor is broken. We can't go out. We have no tanks.
And what am I going to do then here?
I'll take you snorkeling.
Fair enough.
No, but it doesn't happen. It hasn't happened so far. But it does, well, in theory it can happen. And then we help each other out. There's a dive center on the neighbor island of us. And we have filled for them. And in that case, they would fill for us. So in the evening, they bring their empty tanks, we fill them, and then they take them back to their dive center so they can supply the tanks. So it has happened in the past, and we help each other out.
Which is also a very interesting point, because we talked about the network you built with all of those suppliers, right?
Yeah.
And then you just talked about the network you built with the dive centers around you. In case something fails in your own dive center, you still have a plan B. You still have the opportunity to actually move your business and keep it running. Even though on a small island, there's always a way to get things done if we plan ahead. And if we actually know what could go wrong and plan for it.
Plan B.
Plan B. So Petra, thank you so much for your time. But one thing I'm really interested in is, how did you make your dream possible? I know we talked about it in the beginning a little bit, about how you got to the Maldives, but I'm still very curious how you made the decision to, it was a dream of yours to have a dive center, to make your passion your job. Now you have 3 dive centers, so can you share a little bit more about how you went about making this possible, together with Mark, of course, and maybe what you can share with our listeners on what it takes to do something, to form your passion into Think for Life.
It wasn't easy to start with. We had failed attempts. So years ago we went to Fiji. We looked at the dive center in Fiji. We looked at starting a dive center in Tonga and in Vanuatu, beautiful destinations. But somehow we never went for it. We came back to the Maldives. We met with island owners, we met with friends, we talked, we put our feelers out. And it wasn't easy till the first opportunity came along. Mark went to meetings in Singapore to speak to corporations, to hotel chain owners. He went to one meeting and said, I didn't get the right feeling. And the feeling has to be right. You got to have the I don't know, it's also a gut feeling, really. So we needed to keep looking, and we kept looking and looking and looking. And eventually our first project came along, and it was here in the Maldives, where we know most of the people and have most of our connections. So it's gut feeling, it's connections, who you know, what you know, and meeting with people and talking to people. So eventually we landed our first contract here in the Maldives, and we were over the moon. We started our own business. All but a dream come true. It was really, it was our dream, our life dream come true. So we had our own business. And from then on, it was a little easier. Because then people know, you're running a successful business, or they've heard about you. In the past, who were we? We were Mark and Petra. Nobody knew about us. But now we had a company, Ocean Dimensions. People heard about us. And then also we got approached by people. So the second dive center was easier. So after the first, we had to think about, do we want a second dive center? Are we not busy enough? Do we want to employ more people? Is it more of a headache, or is it what we want? But we decided for our second dive center. Maybe one of the considerations is also that we are not paying into a retirement fund. So we still need a little bit of money on the side to finance our retirement. So we started also our second dive center. And again, with the connections we had and with the reputation we had, we got offered a third dive center.
For your passion to succeed, you also need patience.
Definitely. Patience is also one of the key.
And consistency, to constantly believe in yourself, believe in your dream, to move forward, to, like you mentioned, that there was the one dive center you looked at and there was an opportunity, but you said Mark didn't feel like it. So the gut feeling, knowing when something is right and when something maybe doesn't feel right, even though maybe the numbers look right, but it doesn't feel right yet. Until you eventually found the right place, and then the first dive center started, the second dive center started. And you said also like that eventually you got approached, you know, like at first it was just Petra and Mark, but then it was Petra and Mark who own Ocean Dimensions, who built up a reputation. And I think the whole point here is to believe in yourself, to be patient, to keep working on where you want to go, to know why you want to do something and what your passion is. And we would think that maybe Petra just mentioned now they have a dive center, now one dream is fulfilled, but I also just learned that another dream is worked on right now, which is a house in New Zealand.
Oh yes, we are working on that now. We are in the process of building our house in New Zealand, where Mark is from. And how can I leave this place here and go without having a sea view? So it's a place with a sea view, so I can still see the ocean every day.
That's beautiful. And maybe our podcast in 5 years will be from New Zealand.
Oh, I'd love to have you in New Zealand, please.
We saw a lot of water sharks, which for me was the first time too, a new experience. And it's something actually which I have talked about many times before in different variations, to expose yourself to things you maybe not used to. I don't know if I shared a story with you, but many of the people who listen and will read my articles knows that I went to Lake Tahoe a couple months ago and had my first encounters with bears.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So it was very scary too, similar to going into water and there's a shark and I'm like, why is nobody scared here? I'm scared. And to eventually learn that the sharks here are not dangerous. What do you have? Reef sharks, great reef sharks.
We have black-tip reef sharks, nurse sharks, grey reef sharks, lemon sharks, leopard sharks.
So, and it's interesting, you know, you have to expose yourself in order to take away your fears of something. And that doesn't mean that you should just jump into the water and to not be cautious, but to learn. To learn that maybe these sharks have a different behavior than what we have heard from the movies, what we have seen or read about in the past.
There's plenty of fish in the sea for them to eat. They're not interested in humans. They're reef sharks and they get to maximum 2 meters, 2.5 meters. They're not interested in humans.
Still looks dangerous to me, but a new experience, a new learning, and I'm super excited that I could make this learning together with your crew. Hey Petra, I was wondering, did you ever came in a scenario where you decided that the short-term profit you could gain is not as valuable as the impact it could have on your business?
It doesn't happen very often, but strange that you say it, yes. And it happened recently, just a couple of months back, on one of the resorts where we operate. Colleagues went on a dive and it was a perfectly normal dive, not strong current, not too deep, all went fine. Everybody did their safety stop. That's at the end of the dive, you stop for 3 minutes at 5 meters. Everybody surfaced, everybody inflated their jacket, waiting for the boat to come closer to pick the divers up. And my colleague noticed that one of the divers was facing down into the water, looking into the water, which is not unusual. Sometimes divers look down and they see if maybe there's still a turtle or any marine life that they could still spot before leaving the water. But this guy wasn't moving and he didn't have his regulator in his mouth. So my colleague went to check and this person was unconscious. That was a very, very scary moment for everybody. So everybody helped to get this unconscious person on the boat. There were other divers on the boat who were actually medics, so they helped treating and helped looking after that unconscious diver, who eventually after a couple of minutes came to and was conscious again. So he never stopped breathing and There's no bad end to the story, everything is fine. Yeah, but of course we went back to the resort. At the resort was a doctor. He went to see the resort doctor and was recommended to give it a rest. But 2 days later he came back to the dive center and he wanted to book for another dive. And that's when my colleague rang me and said, Petra, what should we do? He's here with a group of friends, everybody's diving. He is pretty adamant, he wants to dive. And we're also scared maybe his friends will stop diving if he's not diving, and maybe we upset him. But for me it was clear from the start that we should not let him dive, because we don't know his medical history, we don't know why it happened, why did he fall unconscious. It's like maybe next time he falls unconscious underwater, maybe we are not looking at the time, and maybe we don't notice. So he also involves other people. He involves his dive buddy, he involves the dive guide, the crew, everybody's involved in an accident in that case. So for me the decision was clear. I did not want to risk his life or the life of the people around him. So we said, no, he can't dive anymore. He was pretty upset, and he also decided to leave the island prematurely. His friends stayed on the island and continued diving with us. They understood the situation, but he himself did not understand. He thought he was feeling fine again and he should be allowed to continue to dive.
And you said at the same point, however, that the resort doctor also mentioned he shouldn't dive, right?
Oh, of course, he needs a thorough medical checkup to find out why in the first place did he fall unconscious. What was it? He could drive a car and fall unconscious in the car while on the motorway. He would endanger himself, the passengers, the other drivers on the road. You just don't do that. You have a medical checkup. Can it happen again tomorrow or not?
And I really like what you said, because you said it's not just a risk for the business, it's also a risk for the people involved, like your instructor who might actually get involved in a scenario, leaves bad taste afterwards, even though they're trained to help, obviously, in scenarios which happen out of the blue sometimes. But obviously when there is a scenario which is where the risk is more heightened and the risk is more clear, that you said like, hey, this risk I'm not willing to take. I'm not willing to put my instructor into this risk. I'm not willing to put other divers into this risk.
Exactly.
And I think you mentioned even that even if the friends would be like, hey, we're not gonna go diving, if he cannot go dive, you said, well, that's how it will be, like this.
It would be a loss to the company financially, but in the long run, it's also our reputation on the line. And even on that occasion where everything went fine, I still talked to my staff and said, are you guys fine? Do you need any counseling? You never know, maybe this locks itself into your psychology and you're scared in the future. There is a medical questionnaire that everybody has to fill in when you go diving. You need to tick all the boxes that you don't have any medical issues before you go into the water, but we don't know the people. So I could understand if that person would need counseling and say, oh God, what happens next time around? And somebody just ticks no, but has several yes on the medical sheet. We just don't know.
Yeah, to be clear, like we don't need a medical certification to go diving. So we come to the dive center, we have to fill out a form saying actually, I'm healthy, you know, like kind of like when you go to the doctor, but eventually, even with the doctor, they don't necessarily know if we put all the correct information into this form. So the history is unclear sometimes.
It's a self-assessment and you need to assess yourself if you're fit to dive. Yeah, it has implications for yourself, your dive buddy, and the dive center.
And I think it's such an important lesson to take away from here, to always look out for the people we employ, to make sure that everybody is feeling good actually do their job, that they feel safe, that they can, that they don't feel like stressed of maybe going to the water, to go diving, to be afraid of something happening again, and that's already creating an extra level of stress, taking valuable resources away from this human being who actually has to take care of more than just one person.
Exactly.
And while this is diving, it might not be resonating with everybody who is listening right now, because obviously we're not on the water, we're not diving on a normal day-to-day, but all of our businesses have risks. And all of our businesses are sometimes involved in things which are not that clear and maybe impacting the people we work with. So we should always keep an eye out for the people we work with to mitigate risk, to create well-being, to help our people to perform to their best ability as much as it's in our head.
And make the right decisions.
And make the right decisions. And the right decisions for everybody involved.
Everybody involved, yeah.
But let's switch to a maybe more funny story, more like beautiful story from here. I think you mentioned that, like, I want to see whale sharks here, and so far I haven't, and it doesn't seem like I will see any whale sharks anymore. I have, 3 days left to dive before I have to do my non-flight, what is it called?
Yeah, you need to wait 24 hours for degassing. During your diving, you picked up nitrogen, your body is full of nitrogen, and you need to give your body time to release the nitrogen before you go onto an aeroplane in a different environment, altitude.
And it has to do with pressure, right?
Yes.
Because the pressure changes dramatically in the air.
Yes, correct. So you need to first degas, get all the nitrogen out of your body before you take a flight. And therefore, 24 hours. You can still go snorkeling in these 24 hours. I have a lot of very nice experiences also while snorkeling.
You want to tell us one of your experiences?
Of course, I'd like to tell you. I just had recently a nice experience. Vanessa, you know, you've dived with Vanessa, she was there as well. That was just a couple of weeks back before you arrived. On the way back to the resort, we saw a big, huge pod of dolphins on the surface. And I suggested, let's try, let's jump in and see if we can maybe see them while snorkeling. Vanessa said, nah, they're always so shy, they always swim away. I don't think we have a chance. I said, well, we don't try, we don't find out. The boat crew put us in the path of the pod, still in a distance, but that was the distance or the direction the dolphins were going to travel. And we went in the water, stayed calm on the surface, and the dolphins passed right underneath us. What a magic moment. Several times we went back on the boat, and the boat crew positioned us again in different spots, and each time we saw the dolphins underwater, and the guests, Mark was there as well, Vanessa was there, and we all could take video footage for our memory.
And memory like this will never fade. And I think it's important, again, what you just mentioned is we don't know if dropping us off in the potential path of the dolphins would actually have worked or not, but trying it was worth it. And it
Definitely.
actually created an experience which the guests definitely will never miss again.
They will never forget.
It's amazing. And you also said, I think you saw 3 whale sharks on the end of your normal pier where we always go to anyways leave
Yes.
to go diving.
That was a little bit longer ago. That was maybe 2 years ago, where I came to the office in the morning, and one of the boat captains said, "Look, Petra, there are a couple of whale sharks at the end of the day." A couple of whale sharks. If you said one whale shark, I might have believed him, but he said a couple of whale sharks. And I said, "Oh, by the time I go there with my mask and fins, I'm sure they will be gone." And he said, no, they've been there for half an hour already. So I was like, wow, I need to try. I took my mask and fins and the GoPro again and snorkeled for at least half an hour with 3 whale sharks.
What an experience. I'm jealous now for sure.
Yeah, so being in the Maldives, these days are going to come around every now and then. Maybe you still have the chance, who knows?
I've been 3 weeks here now. I think at some point I have to leave back to the US. Can't spend much more time here, unfortunately, but I would maybe someday like to come back. Yes. Or like we said already, maybe visit you in New Zealand for new adventures.
Yeah.
Other diving experience, sailing experiences.
You're always welcome.
Thank you for your time, Petra.
Okay, super. Dankeschön.
Danke dir.